Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Revolutionary Baddies podcast. I am your host. My name is Dee Dee.
And I'm your host, Brittany. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are in season 2.
Episode 18.
Episode 18.
Wow.
We're getting up there.
I can't even believe it's been 18 episodes this season. I say that every time.
Literally.
Every episode, I think I say it.
Every single episode. But it deserves to be said.
Yeah.
It deserves to be said. We have now over 30 episodes out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that start podcasts and they maybe get 3, 4 episodes, or even a season. It's like 7, 8. And we were going to do that before. We were going to do just a quick boom, just a little 1-2. And here we are, 30 plus episodes and still enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Loving the process.
Having a ball.
We just celebrated our 1 year.
Wow. I mean, last week was back to back. 2 days before we hit the 1 year mark, we hit 5,000 downloads.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, we are already at 5,200 downloads.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the 1 year hit. And I mean, what can we say, man?
Yeah.
I can't even believe it's been a year.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful time. And I mean, the topic of this episode is a huge part of the reason why we even have this podcast.
Come on now.
Like, making the revolution irresistible.
Mm-hmm.
Providing the essential tools, moments in history to know, and how we can learn from it. This is all this person is about that we're about to talk about in this episode.
A giant.
Yeah, I'm so excited. My favorite.
A giant. Before we reveal the lady of the hour. How are we? I mean, obviously we just went over how we feel about the 1 year, but how was your weekend? How you feeling?
Yes. So I just came back into town. I was in Philly at home, my other home.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up there for one of my best friends from high school. She graduated from Cheney University.
Okay.
Boop, 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 boop. Cheney University, for those that don't know.
Tell them again.
It is the oldest historically black institution for higher learning, founded in 1837.
Wow.
In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And it was originally named the African Institute, which I thought, what a fire-ass name.
Plain and simple.
African Institute. I think I talked about this on the Pan-Africanism episode.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, it's had many, many name changes, and it moved, obviously, out of Philadelphia, and it's like maybe 45 minutes outside of the city, in the county, like the Philadelphia suburbs. And so I got to go back to my alma mater and see one of my best friends graduate. It was just beautiful. Like, it's so much history. Like, when you're on the campus, you can just feel the years. Like, you feel the like oldness. It's just historic. And
put the heavy on the historic.
It's historic, and it's not super like pristine, in a way that some other HBCU campuses tend to. Like, if you go to Hampton University, or if you go to even like some inside of Howard, it's a very pristine campus, but Cheney is a little bit more open.
Yeah. And
we have the rolling hills. We have buildings that have been there since the early 1900s. So it was really, really beautiful to go back onto campus and see some of the people that worked there that I knew from when I was a student. The graduation, it did get a little ghetto. Just a little bit.
A little bit.
And for Philly, there's an attitude. There is a attitude that is unmatched, honestly. Before Lift Every Voice, because we're not singing the national anthem.
It's no need.
There was no national anthem sung at the graduation.
It really shouldn't be sung in any HBCUs.
We sing it, Lift Every Voice, and we sing it every verse.
All three
verses. But before Lift Every Voice was sung, me and my homegirl, we was standing up, taking pictures, whatever. Everybody pretty much filled in the seats. And it was outside. It was outdoors on the quad. Graduation is always on the quad. And I'm standing there and I just hear this woman say, well, you should have got here earlier. Me and my family was here and that's why we got our seats. Is there a problem? And then I hear the other lady say, well, aren't you supposed to be modest? You got your key mark on. I thought you were supposed to be modest.
Uh-oh.
And then that woman said, you want me to take it off?
Uh-oh.
I was like, what? What do you mean take it off? No. What are y'all doing? This was before Lift Every Voice is sung. These women are about to fight over seats.
Come on now.
It was so many moments where it was like, y'all are actually embarrassing. Like, y'all have to chill. Like, you got to chill. Nothing is that serious. And this is a graduation that we had. Nobody got assigned seats. Like, what are you talking about? And why are you threatening to take off your key mark, ma'am?
It's always one. When I went to my mom's graduation for her master's at Shaw, they did the announcement like, no clapping, wait till the end, which of course black people are not going to listen to. But, most people would at least do like a modest clap for their person that went through.
Oh, yeah.
I'll never forget. It was somebody who graduated named Nita. And I don't know who the guy was. I don't know if it was a significant other, cousin, brother, uncle, whomever. I'll never forget. He just was relentless. Like, yeah, Nita, that's what it do, Nita. Yeah. I was like, see, I like that energy. I love when people act like that, up like that.
Yeah. Right.
But I took it back to my friend group. Like when I would be like cheering them on, I'm like, yeah, Nita, that what it do, Nita. Like that is classic behavior. I mean, we're going to not follow those rules. Never. No. And it's always crazy being at a predominantly white institution's graduation.
Yeah.
And they make that announcement, and then you see clearly the distinction between the white crowd and the black crowd, because the white crowd actually obeys the orders.
They don't have no signs.
They're chilling.
They don't have no posters.
They're just like, they nod their head.
It's like Sunday church.
Yeah, good job, Bob.
Amazing.
And black people are immediately like, I'm about to pull this bifold out of my shirt.
Out of my shirt.
And I'm about to cut up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just what we're going to do.
Yeah. They had a performance singer also. And she sang like one of her songs, but then she also sang We Are One.
Oh, got to.
Frank Beverly.
Got to.
The whole playlist after the ceremony was over, the graduation class, they picked their song. They picked Champion by Kanye West.
Okay.
All the songs after that was just Philadelphia, like Jill Scott, Living My Life Like It's Golden. Then they played Frankie Beverly and them. Then it was just so black. It was so Philly, and it was so cute because the school is pretty small. Like the graduation class, it might have been 100 of them, maybe. So it's a very small school. So you did get to see everybody. You could tell whose family is who. You know what I mean? Like it was that small.
We know what's going on here.
It was that small of a service. But congratulations to my bestie Denise for getting her bachelor's.
Congrats.
Yeah. So that was my weekend. How was yours? What you do?
It was good. I mean, it was a grad weekend here in Durham. So shout out to the Eagles that graduated. And Duke as well. My weekend was pretty good. I got some kid-free time Saturday night. I was able to step out a little bit. Then Sunday, I popped up to host Mother's Day in my house.
Okay.
And that was great. Now, once again, me and my mom were like, we were going back and forth on like, should we go out to eat? Should we do, just cook? And then I had booked a reservation, and my mom was like, you know what? Let's not do that. Like, let's just eat in and relax.
Did you book it?
It wasn't a Seraphine.
Okay.
Only because they had a prefix menu for a graduation weekend.
Okay. So
I decided to cook. And if you know, right now, 2026, cooking is not cheaper than eating out. at all. Especially because, I like to do it big. I could have baked some chicken thighs. I could have did a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to try something new. When I cook for people, I try to like do a dish that's going to be like a staple.
Yeah.
And so I did a crab fried rice. No, not crab fried rice. I did a crab garlic noodle. It was a new recipe.
Mm-hmm.
It was delicious. But I really set it up. I had like, set up. I had some fruit out. Then I made some lemon basil butter scallops, or brown butter scallops. Served that on one of my little cute serving dish. I made a salad.
Oh,
A big pretty salad. I tried to emulate Ali 26's salad.
Their mandatory greens.
I tried to do that one.
Okay,
and then I served the noodles. So it was a hit. Everybody had the itis, but I crashed afterwards because going out the night before, going to bed at 3.
Yeah.
And popping up and trying to clean and go grocery shop and then cook.
Oh.
And it was like a lunch. It wasn't even dinner. Like they were there by 2.
Okay.
So
I'm glad you did that though.
my eye just stopped twitching a little bit. But I was really glad I did it. My mom's friend was blown away by the food. My mom loved it. My daughter killed it, the noodles. And so it was a good day. I'm still accepting the fact that I'm being celebrated on Mother's Day because I still feel very much like, I have my mom. So I feel like I'm celebrating her. So when people text me Happy Mother's Day, I'm like, oh shit, that is me.
It is you.
It is me. I'm a mother.
Yeah.
So I got some cute little gifts. My baby made me a necklace and stuff. So it was a good Sunday. It was like, I cooked, we ate good, we watched Soul Food, a Negro classic.
Naturally.
And I took a nap. And
Love that.
Good weekend.
Yeah. Great.
So going into the giant that we are going to be honoring in this episode, the Ella Baker.
Miss Ella Baker.
Miss Ella Baker.
Or Miss Baker. They also call her Miss Baker.
Ella. Can I call her Ella?
No.
Okay, Miss Baker.
Yeah.
Formal. DD strict. I mean, I don't think that unless you really read her biography or other works about her, I don't think that there's any way, just from a surface level, to really know the impact that she had throughout multiple decades of work. But most famously during the civil rights movement and the freedom movement. Just someone who got to work immediately. It's almost like she came out the womb just ready. And
she was who she was always meant to be. Yeah.
And just reading about her, you just are like, I'm not doing enough, and I don't know if I ever could do enough.
Oh yeah.
But it was definitely very eye-opening, and so many things that I pulled in while reading about her and her life and her impact. But yeah, I mean, just to give you a little bit of background about Miss Baker. She was born December 13th, 1903, and actually passed on her birthday in 1986. Seeing 1986, I was like, whoa, she left right before we came.
Just left.
And it just kind of always makes that connection of like historical figures that like she saw the 80s. Yeah. She also saw the 20s, the 30s.
Basically saw the whole decade. I mean, the whole century.
Yeah.
And
she is what some would call a human and civil rights activist. She was a grassroots organizer, a strategist. Gosh, I don't even know of all the things that I could just...
Endless thing. I mean, she did so many elements of what it means to be an organizer.
Yeah.
Like, not just on... a lot of people don't know about her, because so much of the work that she did was behind the scenes, and she liked it like that.
Yeah.
That was part of her whole theory about the work that needs to get done. If you watch videos of her doing public speaking, which she didn't do a lot of also. She was very much about being behind the scenes and getting shit done and moving money and getting people together, getting money from one organization to the other, very much from this way of like, things just gotta move. It gotta get done.
Yeah.
And that's what we are here to do.
Who could stop her? There's so many takeaways, and we'll get to it throughout the episode about her style of leadership. And even if she would call it that, because like I say, one of her biggest things was that everyone has the potential to be a leader.
Yeah, right.
Everyone can identify their own needs and be empowered to advocate on them. And that centralizing leadership was a pitfall of a lot of movements. And she moved through a lot of organizations and had a lot of strong relationships with people. And she never positioned herself as a leader, but so many people looked to her as a leader, as someone to get counsel from, someone to bring in.
Yeah.
And there are so many women, I'm sure, like Ella Baker. Throughout reading, her story, you see these other names pass as well. But I think that there are so many people who are always the glue.
Yeah.
And
the bridge
over troubled water, because these are tough times to be organizing in. I mean, all times are tough times to be organizing in, but we're talking about during some of the most volatile and violent decades after Reconstruction ended.
Yeah.
And so to kind of understand how Miss Baker became the woman that she was, we have to go back to her childhood. So I'm getting in trouble. But no, Ella Baker, she was born in Norfolk, Virginia, to Anna and Ross Baker. And both sets of her grandparents were formerly enslaved people. She was closer to her maternal side, and her maternal side and her paternal side had these, obviously the commonality that they were people who had been freed from slavery, but they had class differences, as her mother's family was able to buy land, and that became like a legendary thing within their family, this big story that was passed down through oral history about, how they were able to get the money together and buy land. And buying land set them on a trajectory that differed from a lot of people who ended up in sharecropping or as tenant farmers, as her father's parents did. Much like a lot of the women we see, behind them is a mother who was even stronger. Miss Anna Baker did not play. That was one thing that was emphasized over and over and over again as I read her biography, was that her mother ran a tight ship.
Yeah.
Very disciplined. And I feel like there was just a type of lady like that. Like her mother was one of thousands of Black women who loved the Lord, ran her household where people would honor Christ.
Right.
Act like they had some sense.
The children were polite,
mannered,
read. Yeah.
You will not embarrass me.
Yep.
Just a very dominant force.
Yeah.
And there's so many parallels between Ella Baker and Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells, that was one of the first things she talked about in her autobiography, was her mother she loved Christ and she loved discipline. Yeah. And I think that's one of the many commonalities between them.
Yeah.
Is that their mothers ran the household to be an organized machine, and there were high expectations for the children to be educated, particular for Miss Baker's case, for them to be in service to community. Anna Baker was someone who really took being in service to Christ and to others very seriously. And she was in a lot of organizations herself, Baptist organizations, to serve the community. And she was a part of that class that was forming of Black people who, because they had got somewhat of a middle class status, what would be considered middle class then, it was their responsibility to take care of the other members of their race. So for the people who were poor, for the people who were uneducated or illiterate, they had that responsibility to educate them, to organize on their behalf, and to just simply help. If it was a child not being raised, where do we need to get the babies to? Do we need to bring them in? And her family, her parents, Ella's parents, were a part of the group of many African Americans that left the South and migrated to cities to be able to find work and have a different life. And so her parents, of course, went to Norfolk, where she was born, but she was only there for 7 years.
Okay.
Because, like we've discussed in previous episodes, I'm trying to think of the ones, there was just a new form of terror in these cities.
Yeah.
And so as Black people began to quickly make gains, Reconstruction ended and Jim Crow laws became enacted.
Yeah.
And segregation became officially the law of the land. And reading about it kind of made me, it's like one of those things, but when you kind of think about it, is that sometimes we talk about slavery ended, Jim Crow began. And that's actually not true. There was slavery, there was Reconstruction.
Yeah.
And then the fall of Reconstruction brought on Jim Crow.
Right.
And so there was some level of prosperity that was taking place. And also that the culture of Jim Crow was there immediately after slavery, but not the actual laws, Supreme Court rulings that actually made segregation the law of the land. And that's what her parents found themselves dealing with in Norfolk.
Yeah. She grew up in Littleton.
Yeah, they moved back home to Littleton.
They moved back to Littleton, which is a small town east of Durham. Yeah. It's going towards east. I don't think it's considered eastern North Carolina all the way.
It might technically still be Piedmont.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's going that way.
Yeah. And even when they were still in Norfolk, her mom was homesick constantly and was like, I want to go home, because she just grew up in a very close-knit community. And being in the city, I'm sure it was a lot of loosies and goosies that she was like, what's going on up here? And just being away from family. And I think that that's one of the things that's often not talked about in the people who did this great migration out of the South, is that it became somewhat isolating times for them. They had to build new communities in Chicago and New York and Philadelphia, Detroit, but they were away from some of the comforts of home. Yeah. And the South, of course, gets a bad rep because, yes, they did have to flee from literally potentially being lynched and brutalized, but there is still that beautiful charm about home that belongs to everyone. Yeah. And it made me think of Love Songs of Du Bois the whole time. We posted about that book on our Instagram. Yes. I talked about it a couple times. It is a phenomenal book.
So good.
And in that, there was this, the characters, they had moved, I think maybe they were in Jersey.
Yes.
And they would always come back home during the summer. So Anna was constantly bringing the kids back to Littleton. And then eventually she was like, I'm going back. And the husband remained in Norfolk to continue to work because he had a good job, I think, on the steam lines. And he would come on holidays and weekends. But she was like, I need my mama near me.
I gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about on the mothering episode. Raising 3 kids with just your man is a very isolating thing. It can. Yeah. She went home to be with her mother. In the biography, they even talk about Ella's grandmother. Her name was Bet. I think it was short for maybe Betsy, but Bet. She was formerly enslaved, and she was very lively. She told stories of her resistance while being enslaved. They wanted her master, who I believe was also her father, wanted her to marry someone, and she didn't like him. And she refused. So her mistress had her whipped. And she's like, that's fine. Like, I'm do whatever, but I'm not marrying so-and-so. And she got to marry who she wanted. So her grandmother told all these tales of just the ways in which, like, it was a rebellion, you know, within her. So that was all a part of Ella Baker's lineage. Yeah.
She started really, really young doing work in service of the community.
Her mama made her.
Her mama didn't fuck around. And obviously very involved in the church and what was going on locally. And she grew into being an organizer, really.
Yeah.
She went to Shaw also. You just mentioned it about your mama. Shout out to Shaw University.
Yes.
It's the oldest HBCU in the South.
And the first to accept women.
Oh, see. It's the oldest HBCU in the South. It's not the first.
We know who that is.
I just want to clarify because people think Shaw, and I'm like, Shaw is the first in the South for sure. For sure. Miss Ella Baker went to Shaw University, and that's really where her journey into adulthood and into activism really, really began. Yeah,
her mother, like I say, ran a tight ship. So going to Shaw, she was like anybody going to college. You finally get a sense of freedom. And that's where I think she began to hone her organizing skills because she grew up in a very religious home. And Shaw was a very religious university. They had to have prayer in the morning, prayer in the evening. And like a lot of HBCUs during this time, it had a white administration. So fun fact about a lot of HBCUs, they were not ran by black presidents for decades.
Yeah. A long time.
Yeah, I think the first black president of Shaw came in maybe as she was leaving college or right after she left college. And so there was this emphasis on kind of making good Negroes.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of support from Northern funders. And, let's make them kind of that talented 10th type of Negro. And she got there and she was like, I don't know about some of this stuff. So at one point there was a story where a group of women approached her about, like, they wanted to wear silk stockings. It was becoming trendy. It was in all the magazines. Ella was kind of described as a tomboy during her youth. And they were like, so it wasn't even her fight, but they were like, Ella, you're so well spoken. Can you go and advocate for us to be able to wear these silk stockings? It's amazing what people had to fight for. Like, so shout out to the women who fought for so many things.
Shout out to y'all for sure.
And so she did, and she was almost expelled. And the president, it might not have been the president, but one of the administrators was like, kind of fussing her out, wanted her to apologize. She refused. The woman became so hot that she fainted in the room, and Ella was still unfazed. Like, girl, get up. It's not that serious. And they challenged the administration on, like, do we have to take these religious courses? And kind of getting that type of backlash. But those were the things that started to sharpen her skills as being an advocate and organizing people and really standing her ground on principled things. And then meeting some of the people that she met at the university, which is always the experience of college, or I won't say always, but should be, meeting these life-changing people.
Yeah.
And so she met people who pretty much influenced her to move to New York after she graduated. And she landed in Harlem. And so I believe this is in the 1920s. So she was there.
The Rolling 20s.
Whoa, when it was lit.
The Rolling 20s, Harlem Renaissance, all of that.
Just booming, just this place where it's so many black people from any and everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going to Shaw was a big thing from Littleton. But Shaw is still, at this time, Raleigh is still fairly rural.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's a city, it's the capital, but it's no Harlem by a long shot. And going to Harlem, like for a lot of people, going to New York or a major city, they were able to start building so many different coalitions.
And at that time too, this is like a little bit before McCarthyism.
Yeah,
a little bit before,
for sure.
And so she already kind of had the appetite for activism and for organizing. And then there's the Socialist Party, there's the Communist Party, there's all these different parties that also are active in Harlem all throughout New York.
The Garveyites,
all of them.
And she was going to all the meetings.
She was pulling up to everywhere. She wanted to know what was going on.
What are the people?
And my understanding is she never actually like joined a party, but she was affiliated enough that she gained those relationships and those connections to people.
They said that she was obviously left leaning, but was more interested in what do people need and what are the needs of the people in New York. So she obviously saw poverty of extreme levels growing up in North Carolina, as we see in a lot of rural areas. But when she went to New York and was introduced to still another stage, especially going into the end of the 1920s, 1930s, there was the Great Depression, which, I was reading about how Black people who had moved from the South were shocked to see poverty of that level. Yeah, like, wait a minute. Like, and the people who were actually from New York and had been there for a few generations, like, what is this level of poverty that we're dealing with? Where people are just living out on corners. And the Great Depression hit everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
People were struggling. But she met up with someone and she wrote an infamous article. I gotta find it.
The Bronx slave.
The Bronx slave market.
Yeah.
And so she was credited with pretty much speaking to intersectionality before it was a thing.
Yeah.
Much like Claudia Jones, like before
Black feminism,
before the mainstream feminist movement, before these things had these names.
Yeah.
It was observable reality.
Yeah.
That people are suffering because of their class, because of their work, their race, and because their status of a worker.
And gender,
right.
Yeah.
And so women were essentially selling themselves, whether to be maids, to be domestic workers, and to be sex workers. And there would be areas where women would gather every morning in hopes that some white woman would come and pick them up to pretty much be a day laborer. The way that we see Latinos at Home Depot and people just come by and pick them up and take them
for a job. That was the same thing.
Same thing going on.
But it was Black women doing what they had to do. And if they couldn't get picked up for domestic work, some of them would then get picked up by probably the husbands who drove around 2 hours later, the white women. They say, yeah, baby, you go out there first.
You go pick up someone to work the house, and I'm gonna go pick up her sister. And that's what was happening.
Right.
And so, because of how desperate the times were, many women had to resort to that. And it made me think of, I went recently and saw a film called, I think it's called The Black Girl.
The Black Girl.
I think that's the name of it. It's by a West African filmmaker. I want to say he's Senegalese.
Oh.
And I saw it recently at the North Carolina Museum of Art. And pretty much it was the same dynamic. This is in post-colonial Senegal. Women would line up on a corner waiting because gosh, there was so many white people in Africa, but just there. And they would line up in hopes that a woman would come around and pick them up and take them to be nannies or domestic servants. And in this film, one young woman, she's picked up, the family hires her to be like a nanny, and then they leave Senegal and they go to their vacation home for the summer, like on the French Riviera, and they invite her to, come. So she's giddy about it. She's like, I'm leaving. And she gets there, the kids aren't there. So she's like, I was a nanny. Like, where are the kids? And they're like, oh, we're enjoying our vacation. We sent them away. And she's come all the way from Senegal. And they're like, pretty much turned her into a maid. And she was pissed because she was like, no, wait a minute. Like, right. And so it was this whole thing. There was like the striking similarities. And there was a conversation after we watched the film at the art museum. And we were talking about how the same things that happen across the ocean were happening here. Yeah. And I didn't even know about the Bronx slave market. Yeah. But I talked about The Nanny. I mean, not The Nanny. What was the movie? The Maid.
Yes.
Was that it? With Viola?
The Help.
The Help.
The Help.
There we go.
Yes. That's what that, yeah.
It's the same dynamics.
Yeah. I mean, so from early on, Ella was putting her thoughts out there. Miss Baker was putting her thoughts out there about what was actually happening around her and the impacts that it was having on Black women. And then she worked for the Workers' Education Project and was a teacher. Yeah.
She worked to organize people about consumerism and really the power we hold, like, economically as workers. So, of course, doing that work, you have no choice but to be in company of communists.
Right.
And socialists and labor union organized.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it was invaluable work, but some of the parallels going back to between her and Ida was that it's so important that we write.
Yeah.
Now we have podcasts, right?
We write a little bit.
We can write some more. What y'all want?
We will.
That's coming. Don't worry. And so how it's important to just continuously put our voices out there. Yeah. Honestly, still respect written like articles and op-eds and these things, these essays, because they last throughout time and they're once again directly speaking to the conditions that people are going through.
For sure.
She also worked with the Young Negroes Cooperative League, and was just always trying to bridge these connections between so many of the organizations that were just popping up at the time.
Yeah. And the cooperative league, I mean, it was one of the first of its time, right? Like, cooperatives are throughout the country. There aren't enough. There's definitely not enough, but that's because of capitalism. But even back then, like a cooperative league, thinking about it as a grounding place for young Black people to think about the economics, think about the society that we're in, and not on some financial literacy shit, but on some, we need to have a collective understanding of money, worth, and what it means to be workers in this time, which is a very different time of what it meant to be workers for her grandparents, right? So taking on this responsibility of like, it's called the Young Negroes Cooperative League. That's taking on a level of responsibility for that generation and bringing them in at a very, very young age to be thinking about capitalism and what it means to build cooperative economics. Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me throughout the biography is that, because she worked with so many different people, and, it seems like Ella Baker never had a way of really saying like, I'm this or that. Yeah. She didn't feel that need to proclaim or to denounce things. Yeah. She's like, what's working?
Right.
And what you see throughout it is that she's constantly building these different relationships with different Black communists and white communists and anti-racist people. She wrote the Bronx Slave Trade with Marvell Cook, who was a Black communist. there is such a history that we definitely have to do an episode on unions, labor organizers, and communism, and the relationship of Black people to the Communist Party and to communist ideology coming out of Reconstruction in the early 20th century. And
it was a thing.
It was a huge thing.
It was a
and that
huge
history
thing.
is never it's never discussed.
Yeah, because of McCarthyism.
And because McCarthyism said, you better pledge allegiance to this motherfucking capitalist flag,
or you die.
You're going to jail. You're going to get death penalty. People died.
Exiled.
People literally were put to death, not because they had murdered anyone, because they had identified as communists and it was treated as treasonous. And shout out to the author. I'm going to figure out her name in a second. Black Scare, Red Scare.
Oh, CBS.
Dr. CBS.
Dr. CBS.
Shout out to her book. It really brings together this whole lineage of Black resistance and communism. And that is precisely why the people in power said, are them niggas getting empowered? We
got to make some changes.
We got to ban this shit.
Back to the board.
They went back to the board. They said, wait a minute. The original worker of this country is talking about worker rights. What is that about? Wage theft? The original sin of America is,
and it was
wage
so
theft.
much of that happening. Again, when we talked about the episode around, I think the wellness episode, when we talked about the farmers, that was also around that time where in these small towns throughout the South, farmers, this is post emancipation, where farmers are trying to they're building unions, they're collectivizing, and the amount of destruction and violence that they faced just for trying to be recognized as workers,
organizing around being workers.
Just was completely villainized.
Like I said, we definitely got to get into that in an episode because it's a lot there. But Ella was like, who's trying to work? And she had a mixed dynamic with it that the biography painted. Like when she was with the NAACP, the NAACP, shout out to them, for sure, but they were not without flaws,
right?
And they were the vibe was at a national level. Let me be specific because the branches and the chapters, they were very radical. They had their own ideologies and approaches towards struggle.
Right.
But the national bourgeoisie element of them was like, keep that communist shit out of here. Yeah. Because you're going to make it hot. It's already hot on us.
We got enough shit.
We got enough shit going on for them motherfuckers to arrest us all, to shut it down. Yeah. And so the NAACP within its ranks began to crack down on communism. But a lot of people were joining from different, freedom movement, struggle movements, and they were leftists. Yeah. Socialists and communists. Yeah. Yeah. And then they get in and they like, I can't be me. And they like, no. No. And so Ella Baker was actually on a council that pretty much denounced or went to denounce members who were communists. And obviously, I think in that moment, she was doing what she felt was best for the survival of the actual organization. Because honestly, you can't bring that shit in here. It's too hot. Like
that wasn't the place.
It's just too hot right now. Yeah. It was. Yeah. And but they said that she still just never had an official position against it. It was once again, she's doing like how are we getting to work?
Speaking of the NAACP, Miss Ella Baker started her more formalized journey into being an activist and organizer with the NAACP as a youth coordinator. And then she was then hired as an assistant field secretary for the NAACP. and then eventually just kept kind of elevating in the ranks of the NAACP. Again, she could speak to so many people and around so many different issues that really expanded what the NAACP was even talking about. So she elevated to the rank of being the director of branches. And really that type of role is, there's different chapters throughout the country, but prominently in the South, were a lot of the NAACP chapters. And they have both statewide chapters, but then they also have city or county kind of local chapters. That meant she was still living in New York, and she had to travel to the South constantly. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a Black woman that is in her 30s, 40s, single, by herself. Well, she wasn't single, but she was by herself, traveling through train across the South, going to the different branches, showing up to their meetings, teaching them and training them on how to hold community meetings, town halls, how to address the issues, very much like grassroots organizing level training was what she was really doing.
Yeah.
All throughout the South. And that alone is a feat.
Once again, like Miss Ida B. Wells, mm-hmm. traveling by train as a woman alone, a Black woman alone.
In the South.
In the South during some of the most violent times mm-hmm. post-slavery.
Yeah.
What I liked about this phase of her life as an organizer was that, once again, the national headquarters had their own ideal. And there was always this constant divide between the North and the South.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the Southern chapters felt like, y'all do not understand the situation down here.
Yeah.
And y'all are giving us a lot of directives that don't actually match our reality. Mm-hmm. And Ella was like, I'm coming.
Yeah.
And I'm going to empower these people. One, listen to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And empower them to be able to fight for the things that they need via the organization. Mm-hmm. And that was, once again, going back to Ida B. Wells, it was, what can I do to get here, know the people, mm-hmm. build the relationships to get the work done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think this was during the time where Ella Baker really saw the need to decentralize the ideal of leadership, mm-hmm. particularly male leadership.
Yeah.
When she became the director of the branches, that position was literally announced. When the public found out, she found out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was the position had been vacated, and they were like, okay, the national leader was like, let's put Ella in it, because she is doing this work mm-hmm. with these branches. And she just saw that it was just a lot of not having the ear to the streets. And she's like, whatever. She kind of, her position from what I read with the NAACP was, either you can support me or you can just get out of my way. Like, if you don't want to give me the support, that's fine, but don't stop me from going and doing this grassroots organizing.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of times that she was antagonistic in the board meetings, in the staff retreats, constantly saying this is the reality that we're seeing on the ground throughout the South, where she was from, and kind of conveying that to the, not just Black leadership, but the NAACP was actually a interracial organization, and trying to kind of, once again, fighting those tensions within that organization.
Yeah. It's because of her tenacity and her consistency with showing up to the local branches, really training them up, working with them around their canvassing efforts or getting people to a town hall, and really believing in this kind of principle of strong people don't need strong leaders. Mm-hmm. And that's her quote. And it's really about just the essence of not relying on hierarchy to be the determinant of how people get organized and move and make change happen. She really, in the heart of what she was doing, believed in trusting the people and trusting the collective intelligence and the experience of the people that are being directly impacted, and not just on a singular leader.
Yeah, one of her things was give people light and they will find the way.
Mm-hmm. They will find a way.
But eventually she realized, her talents could go on from that organization.
Yeah.
And because she was, once again, ready to do the work. And when she noticed things were stalling or reaching a stale point in organizations, that didn't deter her dream. And what she saw I think Ella really had a keen sense of being able to see where the energy was.
Yeah. Yep.
And where real progress had the potential to be made. Yeah. So she eventually resigned. And of course, like when she resigned from Igni organization, people were begging her like, Ella, please come back. After her resignation, she later became the first female president of the New York City branch of the NAACP. So she still ended up back in some capacity. Yeah. And she brought her style of like, let's go out, meet the people where they're at. But then she started to form new coalitions. She was meeting with Bayard Rustin and Stanley David Levinson. Levinson. One of them.
Shout out to Bayard Rustin, who is a alum of Cheney University.
Here we go. Back again. We talked about him on the
Black Queer
episode. Yes.
Yeah. Who was also, Bayard was also a architect, a behind the scenes person of the civil rights movement as well during that time.
They true giant. Yeah. Rustin and Levinson had a relationship with Martin Luther King Jr. And so, according to Ella Baker, she felt as though Martin Luther King Jr. had them as close, acquaintances and advisors because of what he could get from them. He saw the genius in Rustin and being able to be an architect, organize things, and Levinson would help bring in money and funders.
Yeah.
And
Bayard also did a lot of writing.
Yeah.
Speech writing.
And Ella pretty much said that she felt like MLK Jr. looked at her like, okay, she's a female, she's older.
Yeah, by then she was in her 50s.
Yeah, like what can I get from her that would make me bring her into my inner circle? So they dealt with each other plenty, but at arm's length. Yeah. And that went into them establishing the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. She was like, whatever, nigga. Let's get to work. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to work. Yeah. And that started her next phase of organizing.
Yeah. So the Southern Christian Leadership Conference was an organization for a long time that was led by Dr. Martin Luther King, along with many other Baptist preachers across the South. And they held a lot of campaigns, a lot around trying to get voting rights, but also trying to get murderers, attackers, the white supremacists that were causing havoc at that time to really move. And they were founded directly after the victory of the Montgomery bus boycott. So they were founded in 1957, really started connected to the Ebenezer Baptist Church, which was Dr. Martin Luther King's, Dr. Martin Luther King's father. That was his church where he was the pastor. They built up this organization again to fight for the rights of people, but it was one of the bodies that was behind the success of the Montgomery bus boycott.
Even though she, throughout her adulthood, became less religious, she saw the infinite potential of the Black church and where it could be a breeding ground for bringing people into movement and radicalizing them. So she was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And they were able to, accomplish a lot. But, when they came on the scene, the NAACP was like, well, what's going on with them?
Yeah.
Once again, going back to when we talked about not romanticizing the civil rights era, there were a lot of egos amongst leaders, which is why she believed in kind of reevaluating the ideal of centralized leadership. A lot of egos came about because all these organizations are just trying to do the work.
Right.
But it was about who's leading a campaign, in what way. The NAACP often took legal routes and through litigation.
Yeah.
And so there were these clashes between these organizations that somewhat had the same goals, but it was a difference in the means to pursue it.
I mean, once the sit-in movement popped off, this is 1956, 57, 58, 59, where young Black people were choosing to sit in at lunch counters. One of the very early protests of the sit-in movement happened right here in Durham, North Carolina, at the Royal Ice Cream Parlor, where students from North Carolina Central University marched from their university and marched to this ice cream parlor and sat in. And then there was, of course, the students from in Greensboro that did the lunch counter sit-in at the Woolworth restaurant or whatever. That really sparked this, just a trigger event of young people, young Black people, students mostly, not just college students, but high school students, middle school students, engaging in this particular type of direct action on a regular basis. And it was happening across the South.
Yeah.
Like, it really started in North Carolina and was prominent in Tennessee, in Florida, in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, so many places, Philadelphia, Virginia, DC, where young people are, in this particular time, increasing the amount of direct action that they are doing. And Ella Baker, again, she had a role at Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And one of the things that she did was she did her research to find out, who are these young Black people?
Yeah.
Because by now she's almost in her 60s. She's like, who are these, young Black people that are engaging in this, and people are being, they're getting beat up, they're being arrested for it. All of this is happening. And she made a call, literally, went through the newspaper articles, found the names of these young people that were choosing to be a part of this monumental moment in the civil rights movement, and called them up and was like, we're having a meeting and I need all of y'all niggas to be there. And she talked to the folks at Southern Christian Leadership Conference about funding being moved to make sure that meeting happened. The Greensboro 4 sit-in happened February 1st of 1960. And by April 1st, 1960, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was founded.
Yeah.
And that was her doing, her mobilizing those students from across the South, because they weren't just in North Carolina. She got students from Atlanta. She had students from DC, students from Memphis, Nashville, all of these places, and told them to pull up to Shaw University, her alma mater, to figure out, how can we make what y'all are doing known and understand that it is bigger than a hamburger? So that's where one of her quotes comes from, around thinking about what actually is not just about getting the opportunity to eat at these probably nasty ass establishments anyway.
Disgusting.
And then it's like, I've talked to some of the SNCC veterans, and they're like, once they actually got to eat there, they was like, what the fuck? is this?
I'm going back home.
I don't even want to eat here.
Yeah.
This shit is nasty. This what y'all was keeping from us? Keep it. But she got those students together in Shaw University, and they decided to build. And again, the idea of strong people don't need strong leaders. They didn't need one person to take on the idea of leading them.
She didn't position herself to say,
and she
I'm
didn't
finding this
herself.
organization,
Absolutely.
so I'm the leader.
And she played the role, right? 1960, this woman was almost in her 60s. This is, and these are kids. They are 20-year-olds or younger that are really deciding on what they're about to do with their life, and committing to the struggle and committing to the civil rights movement. And Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, ended up becoming one of the most significant organizations of that time. Yeah. Literally changed this country.
The people that came out of it, the organizers that came up out of it, like Stokely Carmichael.
Yeah.
And when, what I was seeing when she was witnessing the sit-in. Yeah.
Who we talked about in the last episode. We talked about him.
He loved her.
Yes.
That when she was seeing these sit-ins, spring up, and that really they were traveling from word of mouth before the media could even travel. She was like, I feel an energy and I see my dream coming true. Which is the power of the people. And she knew then, once again, she had that keen understanding of like, this is where the energy is. It's not with a whole bunch of 60-year-old half bald-headed niggas in a boardroom.
Yeah. And not just with pastors. Because SCL, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, was not the same structure as the NAACP. The NAACP was made up of individuals
and members,
which made up their membership, whereas SCLC was churches. It was an umbrella organization for churches across the South. It's a very, very different setup. Yeah. Very different expectations around what it means to be organizing, what it means to win, and what some of the ideology around that. Now, SNCC and SCLC and CORE, which is another organization, the Congress on Racial Equity, which was led by Medgar Evers, who was a prominent activist and organizer in Jackson, Mississippi. And he was murdered by white supremacists. But the organization of CORE continued on. And so those three organizations really made up the main institutions that moved the civil rights movement forward and into the direction that they did move in. It wasn't just around the Voting Rights Act. They did the SNCC folks. They did the freedom rides, getting young people, multiracial young people from up north, bringing them to Mississippi, bringing them to Birmingham, Alabama, and having them meet the people where they are and really support the work that they were doing. There was a lot happening, obviously, during Freedom Summer, and that being a push around getting Black people registered and all of that. But they also worked hand in hand with the farmers and with sharecroppers of that time, and really organized around the issues that they were also facing. And that comes out of Ella Baker's teachings.
Yeah. What they said about SNCC was that when they went out to do grassroots organizing, if someone was picking cotton, they went and picked cotton with them. Yeah. And before they talked about what their organization was doing, what they were trying to organize, they listened to what the needs of the person who was right beside them picking cotton was. Yeah. And then started that very organic approach. Yeah. Also, what likely earned Baker's many places in the FBI's
oh yeah, she had a little rap sheet.
She had a file. It was that because she was going throughout the South, she was militant, and not in the sense, I think militant has a certain connotation. of like, okay, if you're militant, that means you're ready for armed resistance, or you're ready, you know, for violent overthrow. But that Ella Baker was not just this sweet old grandma in the sense of like, yeah, she was founding these organizations, which was, you know, Student Nonviolent, but that she was keen to, once again, what was going on in the South and supported self-defense. And so that began to take on a life within SNCC as well. Yeah. And there was an initial vote to say that they were committed, obviously, to nonviolence. But the reality is that you're not going to come across a farmer, a sharecropper, who didn't own weapons, because that was just a way of survival in the South. Yeah. And some of the meetings that she had, there were people sitting on porches with armed, so that she could have tea or sometimes a little brown liquor as she discussed certain things. She supported Robert F. Williams when he was battling within the NAACP. He was in Monroe, North Carolina. Once again, shout out to North Carolina. And he was literally battling the Klan with arms, not because he was initiating violence, but truly out of self-defense. Right. And so when he was pretty much removed from his position as the president of the chapter, she was riding with him. She came down. Polly Murray was a part of his legal defense. Period. And so once again, it was like, going back to Ida B. Well, everybody knew everybody. And everybody, I was like, wait, hold on, I know who that is. Like, as I'm reading about it. But in SNCC, she was supporting what the young people needed. And she was also like, we will have to defend ourselves in ways that is different from like what the NAACP's leadership, or once again, that wasn't even her organization, but those were some of the clashes that were happening. What are the means in which we go about obtaining these goals? Grassroots first and foremost. And she was like, if the kids say they need the guns, they said they need them. But what are you going to do outside of holding the guns? That was always her thing. Like, even with Stokely Carmichael, when he started bringing in the ideal of Black power, she's like, I'm cool with it, but what does it mean?
Good question.
What are we going to do with Black power?
And she's the one to ask that question. Yeah. Because she's been putting in the work for decades at that point.
And she had the respect where Stokely Carmichael answered, you know, like, absolutely. What did it? And she said Stokely Carmichael was intelligent. And so she was like, if you listen to the young man, what he's saying is 100% true. She said, but the other people around him that are like Black power and this, she was like, they haven't taken the time to study and learn and work and organize as much as him. Yeah. So he can talk. She basically said he can talk about Black power because he's been building it. You perhaps calm down a little bit. What you gonna do with that? I know what Stokely gonna do because I've seen him working. Stokely and them. Yeah. What are y'all up to with the ideal of Black power? Yeah. She says it. She has a speech where she's speaking at somewhere in New York, and she talks about how in Norfolk, Virginia, a little white boy called her a nigger, and she slapped him or punched him or something. And when she got back home, she realized that that's not going to be enough, that it can't be these individual instances that happen that make change happen in the world, that it has to be collectivized and it has to be from the people that are most directly impacted by this. And this is foundational to Black feminism, really. And Black feminist organizing, the idea that we are the ones that have to make the change. Nobody's going to come and make it for us. No. They ain't made it for us since, and it's not going to happen now. And I think that's just a foundational understanding of organizing, that it isn't just about these very lively moments in the news. It isn't just about saying the best speech that's going to call the soundbite that makes everybody, puts people into action. It's the deep relational work.
And it's the getting shit done, actually.
Yeah.
Like less talking and actually let's get some shit done.
Yeah. They say she was famous for, or infamously known for, being at these, whether it was a rally, a meeting, a forum, with a pen and paper. She's taking notes. She's taking down names. She's figuring out who she can connect with who afterwards. And once again, going back to what you just said, like, how do we have these relational moments to take this moment that we're in right now and connect it to another, and truly listening to the different people that she's working with and saying, this is how we may need to be more fluid and flexible. And at times this is where we can be more rigid. But if you want the flexibility, that's fine. What's the plan, Stan? She was always like, what's the plan that what are we gonna do with the power? Yeah. And I think that she just had generational respect because she always met people where they were at, but also wasn't an opportunist to say, okay, well, the power's with the youth now, so whatever they on, I'm on. She just said, here's some gems about how to take all that energy and might and move it and keep it moving. And never also she was close with elite Black people, but never backing down on like, I said, I hung out with so and so. I support these initiatives because what's going on in Mississippi may be a little bit different than what's going on in Virginia. Right. Not drastically. Yeah. But we're talking about farmers in the Delta and city workers in Norfolk. It's a fight against racial capitalism. Right. But it's a different fight.
Yeah. And she had the means and the ability to know that those differences are important to our strategy, that everything can't be blanket and standardized. Yeah, it has to make sense for the people that are there, that are on the ground. And her organizing work continued. She helped to get funding also for the movement, for the Freedom Rides, for Freedom Summer, and not that SNCC, people in SNCC, members or whatever, got paid or any. These wasn't paid gigs. Yeah. Like, I mean, I think Ella Baker was getting paid, but that's because she was in the ranks of these different organizations. But her work really continued. She was one of the crucial advisors and organizers for the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which really catapulted by the work of the Civil Rights Movement, the work of SNCC and CORE, both being really, really rooted in small town Mississippi, and throughout Mississippi, helped to really move this idea of developing a party within Mississippi that is being led by working class farmers, sharecroppers, and that's where we get a leader like Fannie Lou Hamer. Yeah. And according to her biographer, she wasn't sure if their strategy was gonna work. She wasn't sure if like pursuing it from like an electoral policy, like forming a delegation to kind of try to force the Democratic Party to let them in. But she was like, they're working. Yeah. And I'll help in whatever capacity I can to help bring the vision to life. And I think that that's also what made her such a great leader, is that it's not always like, you know what, I think my ideal is better. Right. It was, okay, let's go. Yeah. The energy's there. Yep. Let's go. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, she saw that it still was successful and how it was training a new generation of organizers to make demands, to make the ask, and to fight for it. So she's like, even if this doesn't actually work, what is gained in the process, in the day-to-day, what is deemed menial work of organizing, that in itself is a success. The practice of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's all rehearsal. It's all rehearsal.
Yeah.
Organizing is all rehearsal. And through learning more about Ella Baker was when I really kind of came to realize and really own that the title of being an organizer is a huge one. And it's not actually a title you should be granting yourself. You don't grant yourself the title of being an organizing. The community does. They see you doing the work. They see you showing up. They see you bringing inspiration, life, materials that are helpful, resources to whatever the issue is. And they are the ones that deem you an organizer.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around.
I actually heard that same wisdom from an indigenous woman who was talking about how chiefs they didn't declare themselves a chief. She said most people who became chiefs were reluctantly one, but they had the leadership skills, and the tribe would say, you are the one.
You are the one to be trusted.
But she's like, the one who who sought the position of chief, that's not who they would elect.
It's never the right person.
Never the person.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
Ultimately with SNCC, it did transform into something that was different than the original vision. Yeah. Black nationalism hit the stage. Malcolm X was assassinated. Eventually Martin Luther King was assassinated. And a lot more people were like, we got to tighten up. They wanted white people out of the organization. Some people wanted white people out of the organization who had been with it since its inception. And they
said enough.
I cannot trust them. Okay, I cannot work with them.
Yeah.
And so they actually had like a retreat or a meeting where they pretty much were gonna like discuss it and vote on it. And there was I forget the gentleman's name. I'll have to find it. He was riding with her and someone else. He was white, and she pretty much prepared him for
the backlash.
She prepared to let him know, like, they are talking about kicking white people out of the organization. And he had been arrested in like 1961, brutally beaten, and in prison working with SNCC. Like, he had earned his stripes. And pretty much she was like, let you know things is moving different. Just want to let you know on this car ride up there, you know, so you're not blindsided. And she said, but because he and I believe his wife had so much respect in the organization for their endless sacrifices, that they were like, well, they're talking about creating like a special position for y'all, or maybe like you all can form something and it can be affiliated with. And he was like, I don't want to be a second class citizen. Or not citizen, a second class member of an organization that I've been with since the very beginning. So, you know, eventually him and his wife decided to just respect it and step away. Yeah. And Ella was like, once again, she was understanding. She was like, I get it. It's getting hot out here. The streets is hot. She's like, but be careful of cutting off allies. Yeah. But she still she was like
she
that.
She gave them their
she gave them the space
to learn,
to do what they felt like they needed to do. And people were like trying to, you know, talk to Stokely like, hey man, like out of respect for Miss Ella. He's like, I respect Miss Ella Baker, but I said what I motherfucking said. Right. And so yeah, eventually I think that was a source of kind of heartbreak for her, because this organization of all the ones that she was a part of was so dear to her. But she still held on in a level, in a capacity of being an advisor and being there for them when they needed some type of direction.
And she was also, you know, impacted by the COINTELPRO-ness of the 1960s.
They were writing nasty articles.
They was writing nasty articles about Ms. Baker. They was watching her house. I think they went to her house to like see what was going on, and she was actually married for a long time.
And they said that when
nobody ever knew.
No one ever knew. And they said when she was asked about it, she would be like, now you getting too personal.
What do you want?
Why? What does it matter? She was married for like 20 years. Never discussed it. And, you know, they tried to pretty much frame her with being a communist, going back to that.
Yeah.
But her reputation was just so stellar. It was hard to get dirt on her. It was hard to find an enemy.
Yeah.
It was hard to find someone who wanted to betray her in any way. And but it just shows that they saw in this 60-some-year-old woman.
Yeah, she never changed her name to her husband's name,
She
which
said,
was you know, just adding on to these like very real, just her deciding to be herself and practicing being being
a feminist.
Being a feminist, yeah. Dare I say.
Before it was there, somebody asked her when her family back home asked her like, why you ain't changed your name? And she was like, well, I had my last name this long, so I figured I'd keep it.
Like, why would I change it?
Yeah, very nonchalant. I figured I'd keep it.
And they met in college.
Yeah.
They met in college. So they were together, but she kept it very, very, very close to the point where the FBI did not think her husband was her husband.
They thought she had a female roommate. And it was her husband. She was always traveling. She was always
traveling by herself. So, I mean, they was like, well, clearly this ain't no normal marriage.
Well, people who knew her said that her husband Ella was out of his league. Like, he was a simple man, a quiet man, and kind of parallels with her mother and father. Like, her father was a hard worker, and he had a mild demeanor. He was very relaxed and chill, and her mama ran the house.
Yeah.
Her mother was very involved, always organizing, always in service.
Yeah. And
the dad was like, I'm going to just, earn my keep and keep moving. So she kind of married someone of the same temperament. Like, she
didn't have any kids.
Yeah. He didn't stop what she was doing. Yeah. And he just was like, all right, I'll be here. She did end up adopting her niece.
Yes, she did.
Because she had one of them sisters or siblings. We all have that sibling sometimes. They're just like, okay, they didn't choose a life of responsibility. And so her mother was aging, so she eventually got her niece, I believe, at like 9 years old. So doing the work, caring for a child, ignoring her husband,
doing what she want to do, traveling by herself.
Yeah, I mean,
she ain't never take that nigga with her. That is funny.
And would not let people ask.
No.
Even close friends. Like, how's so-and-so? Like, why? Bob is fine. Bob's at the house.
Don't worry about him. He's fine. Don't worry about it. Why you want to know?
Interesting. I would love to know more about that. They said, but it was really just nothing to find on it. Yeah.
I mean, Ella Baker grew to be well respected. She lived a long, beautiful, servant life, really. And she deserves so much more than what she has. There are things in Littleton, North Carolina that are dedicated to her. There's a highway marker in North Carolina that's dedicated to her. There's an organization also dedicated to her and her legacy really continuing on. The Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, which is based actually in California, but there is an organization that does the work to continue her legacy. There's a whole style of organizing that is studied that is based on Ella Baker's style of organizing. She deserves a lot more praise. Yeah, she's just an iconic force that is like who I want to be.
It's hard to capture someone like her in an episode.
Yeah.
We've left out so much because once again, it is impossible.
Yeah.
Both her and Ida B. Wells could have a season dedicated
absolutely
to them.
Yeah.
And their method I was about to chop it up.
You got it.
Methodology.
Mm-hmm.
Methods.
Yeah.
Wow. So we just have to continue to dig back into history and put the people on the pedestals that deserve it.
Yeah.
We know the big names, but it's worth even for the people, we think we know Ella Baker, but you don't know until you really dig into the work and the legacy that she has. So shout out to her.
We have some books that can tell you all about her, and she's in a lot of books. Actually, I have like a stack, and I have a lot of books at home, but I was just going through the ones that talk about the civil rights movement or talk about like prominent women figures or just other biographies, and she is in them books. She's in them books. Obviously, there's the book that Brittany mentioned earlier. There's the Ella Baker and the Black Freedom Movement, that is by Barbara Ransby. And that book is really a biography about her life. It is a necessary read for anybody, first of all. But especially if you are Black and are interested in activism. If you're an activist yourself, you're an organizer, it is a staple to read about Ella Baker and her life. It will change how you think about the work and the work of our people. There's a book called Want to Start a Revolution, which I've mentioned before, which talks about prominent women figures, radical women in the movement. There's also a book called Freedom Summer, which is by Doug McAdam. If anybody remembers, I also mentioned him. He also wrote The Political Process of Black Insurgency, which I didn't bring, but she's also mentioned a couple times in there. There's Black Visions by Michael Dawson, which talks about the contemporary, like the roots of contemporary Black political ideologies, and her actions and how it personifies Black feminism is mentioned in that book. And then we talked about this before, This Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed by Charlie Cobb. There is the autobiography of Hollis Watkins. It's called Brother Hollis, the Sankofa of a Movement Man. And he was a significant figure and organizer from rural Southwest Mississippi. He was a field secretary for SNCC during the 1960s. And so he also talks about Ella Baker in his book. And then there's On the Freedom Side by Wesley Hogan, which is On the Freedom Side, How 5 Decades of Youth Activists Have Remixed American History. These are a few of the books that talk about Ella Baker and all of the work that she put in and just the impact that she had.
She's everywhere.
So we want to thank y'all so much for listening to this episode about one of our heroes. And please share, like, subscribe, comment, all the things to Revolutionary Baddies. We will have the description notes has all of the links to the books and the things that we mention. And we have some exciting things coming up this year.
Just know that.
We can't tell y'all yet.
Not yet. We'll tell them so.
But we're going to let y'all know when we can let y'all know. Please consider our Patreon and becoming an active member of the Revolutionary Baddies family. We're looking for more. We're looking for some more revolutionary zaddies.
Hello.
We're looking for some more. Just $10 a month. Our Patreon, the link is below. And we will see you in our next episode. Thank you so much.